I did guard your gains for the nutrition one, and as soon as I said it in the recording, I was like, "That's it. No way. It has to be a different one." I'm saying guard your gains, and I'm like, "This. I just want to punch myself in the face." It was not. It's not happening, man. So I was like,
Uh,
then the next one I think was the calorie roll or tap in nutrition.
well, it takes like 10. I mean, Razak guys did like 10 practice episodes of their podcast before they actually started doing live recordings. I think it takes a little bit of iteration.
I mean,
Uh,
we wait, but the thing is, they still edit it and curate it before they send it out, like
no, I
before they
mean,
post it online.
before they did 10 episodes of practice episodes where all four of them got together, and then the first one they released was like in end of September. But
But
they were
pre
hanging.
but pre-recorded
They,
ones.
they did no, they did no, no. These are like new ones.
Yeah, so
Um,
I don't know. I think that's a waste, man. Like, obviously, there's something there. Like, I bet you, like, some of the things are like, oh, can't post this. Like, me and Sunny had a few parts where, like, let's just screw it, whatever. The first episode, I have myself with like a tropics background.
yeah, I
The
know.
whole, the whole, ep-
For them though, it was more that they did they had too many inside jokes. So the podcast didn't make sense if you didn't know them.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean, you could just explain for context, like, take into consideration you have an audience, and you just give some context about it.
Yeah, they didn't do that. And then they made a jar now. So every time they make an inside joke, they have to like add a buck to the jar.
Who gets to keep it?
I don't know.
That person's gonna be loaded, man. It's hard to get away from inside jokes if that's the case, like especially if you're used to it. But the thing is, I always go under the assumption that uh because when we're talking, I don't realize like we could talk about stuff and then people will be like, what are these guys talking about? Where's the context of this stuff? And then a lot of people actually, because we stayed off social media majority of the career, like the time we were doing jujitsu, especially competitively. So a lot of people really don't know our stories. Maybe like guys that we train with, like Brock guys, but not other people. What are you laughing at?
I'm thinking about there's one YouTube video of me, and it's not even my name. It's Omar Collins, and it's still on YouTube. And it's just Omar.
But that was
It's just
his
Omar's.
video of you beating him up, right?
Yeah, this is a video of Omar's friends and family saying, "Come on, Omar," and me just destroying him.
Yeah, I remember I was coaching you on that one. But that was like what, a blue belt match
I'm still a blue
or a white
belt, but
belt
yeah,
match? Was it a white belt
no,
match or a blue belt match?
blue belt. Samurai Pro, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was Fabricio Werdum's thing on. Wait, I gotta change
Yeah,
the hosting thing if you're gonna share it.
I'm not gonna share. I'm just trying to find it.
I could
Oh,
just
I found
make
the video from it's from 13 years ago, dude.
wait, I can make you let me see here.
I can share my screen. No.
I th I think.
Oh yeah, I can. I can.
Wait. You think it's a good idea, man? That's pretty mean.
I'm just saying, just
He,
to
he's
highlight.
probably he's probably not gonna watch this podcast. Just give it a go. Let's see what happens.
So it's not really mean. It's like 13. It's from 13 years ago, dude. If you're salty about this from 13 years ago, you got problems, man.
No, it's the fact that we're putting it on a podcast. But let's see.
It's fine. I'm just saying, just like the one video of me on YouTube isn't even for me. It's for another guy. That's how much we're off social media. Anyways, can you hear the audio? Come
Yeah,
on,
turn it down a
Omar.
bit. Don't play it too high. Oh, so Omar pulls guard. Oh, you do the Hodger butterfly jumping pass.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. I'm
Uh,
too big to do that now.
what was your weight in this tournament? Like 170?
It's like 180.
Yeah, I think was I coaching in this match or was I
I think you were competing.
okay. So you got to we have to also understand some people are just going to be listening only.
Uh,
So he's got him in side control right now. For the people that understand what side control is, he's doing heavy shoulder pressure, trying to force the mount, Roger Gracie style. So we heavy shoulder pressure, and then he's trying to knock. Omar is trying to get his guard back. I think this match you just mount and finish, and then he turns to his stomach, and then you choke him, right?
yeah. I take that back.
Yeah, you're just basically doing the heavy shoulder pressure to try to get to the mount.
Well, I mean, that's the thing of tournaments, though, right? Everybody's so like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, wild
Yeah.
that like a minute to 2 minutes is just trying to maintain the position. At least that's what I noticed when I was competing.
It's a lot faster pace. Like there's not a lot of those slow segments where and a lot of like holding because people will just use all their power and strength, which maybe in training they wouldn't do so much. They're trying to conserve their energy because maybe they're going to be rolling for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever. Yeah, it's just basically been. How long is this
Now
video?
I'm
Uh,
mounted. It's like 2 minutes. It's 3 minutes.
yeah, you did a step over mount, right?
Yeah. I think I tried to collar choke him here. Oh yeah, you are coaching me. That was you
Yeah,
just now.
yeah, I
Yeah,
told
yeah.
you, man.
Okay, yeah, never mind. You weren't.
Come on, Omar.
It's just so funny. It's
Rock
like
and roll.
a
Chop his
video of
leg.
me, but it's
All
not
the
even
ball.
my video.
I
There you
think
go.
I think
Do
it's
it
more
again.
so just like for him to learn, about it. But I
Out the
wonder,
back,
I
Omar.
wonder if it's actually his like channel or if it was uploaded by somebody else.
It says literally
You took his back,
Omar call it.
Come on,
flattened him
Omar.
out.
Get out.
Did you finish him with a regular collar choke or was it
I don't remember, man. It's 13 years ago, but
Hey man, you're still the same belt rank, so there's that.
it's kind of sad. 13 years later, still same belt rank.
Yeah.
What was that dude from Naruto?
There are other videos though. Like I think there was one of the tournaments we competed in
Oh
locally.
yeah, locally,
I don't
yeah.
remember what that was. But for my origin story, I guess people can just watch or listen to the last episode because the last episode I did like a 7 or 8 minute nutrition segment, but I just did my origin story of like how I got into nutrition and fitness. So they can do that. I think your origin story is more so I just told you to come with me and train so you didn't get your butt whooped at school. Um, but I guess the question is kind of like, was there other motivation? Because most people when they train, they just quit. You easily could have been like, "Yo, dude, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not about jujitsu or whatever." Um, what kind of kept you in the mix? Was there anything besides just like, "Oh man, my older brother's gonna call me a wimp," or
I think the hard thing for a lot of people when they first start is they're not accustomed to losing and getting their asses kicked. But like I was. So when I mean, used to practice technique on us at home. So I was already used to getting roughed up. And then I think after you went to San Diego the first time, I don't know how long I was doing it, but like that's when I got Jordan with a back choke. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm actually like not bad at this. But up until then, it was just like getting my ass kicked was kind of normal. And then I started getting people subs. I'm like, oh, I'm actually like not bad at this.
yeah, I think that was
So
like 6 or 7 months or something like that into it. I think, but the thing was with the trying things at home. I remember I was watching like the old Gracie videos of kick the thigh, close the distance, and I think we got to a point where we made enough holes in the walls at the house and how we tried to hide it, and I tried to blame you guys.
did they ever fix mom's?
I don't
Those
know. I don't know because
I'll check
the
after this.
backrest or the backboard or what a headboard is covering it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I honestly don't know. I feel like they did,
I don't think so.
but hey man, that's one of those landmark kind of moments, man. I remember you just moved out of the way. You're like, "After this, I'm out," and I just went crashing into the wall, and there's an imprint of my body on the side of that thing. But I mean, you got to a point where you're like, "I'm actually decent at this. Let's keep going with it," or was there other motivations?
Well, I mean, the other thing too was like you'd pick us up after school and we all go work out at like 3:30 p.m. So you were literally my ride, and Dad wasn't gonna come pick us up. And so your plan was always 3:30, lift weights, then train jujitsu at 6. And like, what was I gonna do? Like,
Yeah, but
there's no Uber
you could have
back.
been like, "I don't want to lift. I'm just gonna book. I'll just walk home." There's
I
plenty of
wasn't gonna
times you've
walk.
done that before.
I was not gonna walk home, dude. That was too far.
I mean, it's not that far, man. If you think about it, what is that like 20 minutes? 15, 20 minutes?
No, man, I've done that walk before. It's not. It's like half hour.
Mm.
Let me check. Actually, I want to know. Uh,
And then do you even remember your first jujitsu class?
No, I don't remember any of that. That was too long ago, man. It's been over.
I mean, I remember, but it's been longer. It's been a lot longer than you.
Oh, really? I don't
Yeah,
remember
my first class actually was I had a friend of ours gave us a brochure at school. He's like, "Hey man, check this place out. It has jujitsu. You've been talking about jujitsu because I remember I was trying to find a spot, and Suitela had it. Super long name too, Suitela Fitness and Self Defense Center. I don't even think they actually changed the legal name. They just made it Suitela Fight Club afterwards. And then I went in there at the time. There's a guy teaching who was like a Marcus Soros guy, blue belt, I think at the time, and Todd. And then
uh
another new guy came too. So it was like a really slow Friday. I think it was a Friday that I went in. And basically the guy's just like go into positions, practice this position, hold them out, which I did a little bit better than the other guy, but I was also 20, 30 pounds heavier. And he was brand new, but he was really in shape. Like he had like a like solid detailed physique. Like he was a pretty strong guy, right? I did that one time. That was my first technically actual class. And I was like, yo, man, I'm gassed. So, and then what ended up happening was I was looking at the cost of everything. I'm like, I can't afford that right now. I didn't think dad would pay for that at the time. So I remember I went once, but I didn't actually legitimately sign up till like a couple months later.
mm.
And then, from time to time, because we'd go by there, I'd see Tom running. Remember Tom Montez?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he'd be
yeah.
running. I'm like, yo, that guy's jacked. Like, I wonder. And then he was also like, I think he didn't make it in the CFL. And then he came in and then he started doing jujitsu. And I like that was kind of his story. His brother used to train there as well in the early days. So then I'm like, oh man, that guy's jacked. So like, it might not be just for the small guys. Like maybe the big guys can do it too, type of thing. So
Yeah.
then I don't I think it was maybe it could have even been 6 months to a year after that. I know it was like 2005-ish time that I think maybe even six I started.
Wait, when did we start practicing around home? Was that pre or post?
I
Like
think
you
we
signing
started.
up?
I think we started in 2005. I think 2004, 2005. So like probably like a couple months before.
You signed up?
Yeah, yeah. So we were
Uh,
doing it at home maybe like 6 months, and then like either it was the tail end of that year or just the beginning of the following year. And then I found the place, and then well, I knew about the place. Sorry, and then it was just like I convinced dad to be like, "Yo, let me train out of here," because it was expensive back then too. You have to understand that it was probably oh 05, oh 06, or oh 04, whatever it was. I can't remember now, but it was like almost close to $1,000 for the year. So
yeah, I'm surprised Dad actually went for that. What did Dad say?
at first he was like hard no, but he's always usually no first, and then
Yeah.
afterwards I was like, man, listen, I want to do this because at that time I was kind of like in the middle point. I'm like, do I do this or do I do kabaddi, right?
Uh,
Because Luck Uncle was teaching. Like he gave me the book and he was coming like every weekend or every other weekend. We talked for a couple hours. So I was like, I don't know. Then he was telling me, he's like, man, listen, there's a lot of injuries that come with kabaddi too, right? So he started telling me about all of his injuries. And then in my head, I'm like, for whatever odd reason, I thought, okay, maybe I won't get as injured in jujitsu, even though there's direct joint locks and all that stuff, right? But you know what? Truth be told, if you think about it, like sometimes in kabaddi, man, if you're the top guy, some people are just looking to take you out. So they might be actually actively looking to injure you. In jujitsu, it's more like I just want to catch you in a submission, get the tap.
yeah, no one's trying to like sweep the leg in Karate Kid.
I think I went to San Diego. I came back. Then I was like, oh, damn, you're actually getting pretty good. But when was it until you actually competed for the first time from that point? Because
All
remember,
I,
you're
re-
you're still a teenager, remember? And
I was,
but you were
yeah, yeah.
rolling with me like all the time. So when you went into the teen division, I think you just steamrolled.
No, 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 no. I remember I lost. I remember I lost because what happened is
No, you competed
Jordan,
as an adult.
yeah, and so I did, yeah, I did the kids thing, and then I steamrolled the kids, and it's like, yeah, what's the point of this? So then we did the adult one. I don't actually remember. All I remember from the first like kids tournament thing I did is I choked the kid out, and then his mom started crying.
But it's just because he didn't tap. That was his fault.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I actually even told the ref, I'm like, yo, this guy's like not breathing. And he's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, no, he's out, dude.
But you were was 16 or 17?
16, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then but the actual adult one, I remember I lost because we went to not Balzers, we went to Jordan's place after. This is like the house he bought with his buddy.
Yeah.
and we were like he was having his housewarming party, and I remember Balzer being like, "Ah, you lost, whatever, man." We made some jokes, and he's like, "Should we call some girls?" I was like, "No, I'm good, dude."
That guy was another wild one, man.
Yeah,
That guy was he's creating his own techniques. I will never forget the time he told me, he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna my game plan for my first MMA fight is use my reach, use my range, keep on the outside, use my striking skills." And 5 seconds in, he goes for a flying knee. The guy clinches him, and they're grappling. Like it's just he's just a wild guy. And I remember his mouthpiece. This is back in the day when you would have to like melt the mouthpiece,
yeah,
and then it would mold to your teeth, and it wasn't fitting well. So he's like, "Yo, I'm gagging on this thing, right?" Because I think there's a certain part you have to cut off, or I never wore them, so I don't really know the
yeah.
details. But he's like, "I'm gagging on this," so he's using scissors to cut a chunk out of the mouth guard
During the fight.
just before the fight, man.
Oh,
Just before, like we're talking like, "Yo, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this right now? Like this should be already ready. You should be good to go." So these are the type of things. I think all that happened before his first fight.
yeah, Balder was wild, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember what belt he got to. Blue,
No,
purple.
I think he got to purple, man. He was there was a period of time he was training with like an older gentleman who was a black belt. I think he was training at his I don't know if it was at his farm or what, but um yeah, I mean, he should still be train he should still train. The guy is like he's a unit, he's a strong guy. I think he
Yeah.
just had really bad back problems. That's what he was saying. During that time he was
Oh,
dealing with like a lot of back issues. It could have even been his hips or his discs or whatever. I guess I think the main turning point for me was at our gym we kept having different instructors come in. So gi jujitsu, like I didn't do gi jujitsu for at least the first 3 to 4 years. It was all no gi because we had a lot of people that were just doing MMA for the most part, not a lot of jiu-jitsu competitors. Len was fighting. Tom, I think, just finished fighting. Um, this is also back in the day before it was like any kind of legal fighting. We would go to like the reserves, and like it would just be like sketchy locations. A lot of people just show up, watch the fights, drink beer, and then bounce. I remember being like 17, 18, like going to those things, like just crazy experiences at a young age. And then also, you know what, culturally too, because if I just hung out with just like some of the brown guys,
yeah.
maybe like the way that I would interact with people would have been different. But I'm hanging out with these guys, they're all like um ranging from teens, like late teens to 25, 30 years old, some people that were a little bit older, and it was like a totally different dynamic. And then meeting those guys, you get a different perspective, you like act differently. And then it's normally brown guys would be like Punjabi music or hardcore gangster rap at that time. These guys are
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hardcore rock, like Rage Against the Machine, Down with the Sickness, those type of like songs. So then I started interacting with them, and it's different. Like they're older than you, a lot of them were open your ass. Like I honestly, not even, no joke, I think for the first 4 to 5 years, there wasn't any real new person that I got to spar with. So I was just getting tapped out all the time for like 4 to 5 years, if I remember
Damn.
correctly. Yeah. Then there was like a smaller guy that used to come with Len, and then I finally got him. But dude, the guy was like 130 pounds. Really nice guy. I'm pretty sure his name was Lad. And then but he was like, man, I was getting heavier and heavier, 200 pounds, 210 pounds, and that guy was like 130, 135. But that was after like 4 to 5 years. But when I went to San Diego, that's where it was like everybody that was catching me before, it stopped.
Bro, that was a rough trip for you though. You were like, yo, fuck this. You're literally like, I won't do this anymore at one point.
So
What is this shit, dude?
well, see, because you have to understand that like pretty sheltered life at that time. Then I
Yeah.
traveled to San Diego by myself, and then basically stuck there for like 2 weeks. I get in the first couple of training sessions, dude, I got whooped
Yeah.
bad. I'm like, yo, what are we even doing?
Bro, I still remember back then we're like reverse cell Hiva, unbeatable, can't get out of it. Like, no way you can pass the guard. Because that was when we were reading the University of Jiu Jitsu book, and we are like, oh my god, this is like so cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, yo, dude, it's reverse De La Riva. Like nobody can, they can't pass their guard now, right? It's like
Yeah.
the guard. That dates us too, because that's like way back in like 08, 07, 08, 09, and those times. But I remember going there and I got whooped by everybody. I remember like everybody else, like even other white belts, I'm like, yo, dude, this is just weird. Because I would dominate at our gym. Well, I wouldn't dominate, I would say, but like I would say I was decent at our place.
Were you teaching back then too at Suitela?
So that's a weird thing with Sutelas. We had so
You
many
had Jorge.
instructors hopping in and out
Yeah.
during the early times. So I remember like if an instructor didn't show up, it would be like me teaching something I watched online. So that's when like YouTube was slowly building up and there's still some videos on there. But I remember I'm like, you guys can all whoop me, but I'm teaching you technique. But they're like, but the techniques work,
Mm.
right? They're like they're applicable. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So then I think Jorge was sent from when Andy kind of worked with Gracie Baja.
Yeah, before the split happened, and then like the split happened sometime later.
Yeah, even when I first got there, um, one guy, I don't want to say names because I don't know if they want to be
Yeah,
out
yeah,
there or whatever, but they left. That guy left, and then actually like 4 or 5 others left too. They're like, there's no reason for us to come here anymore. So they basically
yeah,
didn't have a program.
yeah.
And then it was basically fillers. I think Len would teach for a little bit. I really don't remember in those early days who was actually covering classes. And then we got with Gracie Baja. That's how I met like Super Dave. I met Big Mike, all those guys, right? We went to GB in Vancouver. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so this is like gi jujitsu, got exposed to that. And but what ended up happening is all these guys are based out of like Vancouver area. They don't want to drive the 30, 40 minutes
No,
usually in rush hour because you're going to be teaching at like 5:30. You want to leave at like 5 something to get there for 6, and then you're leaving back again, and it's like it's not just like an hour training and then you leave.
no.
It'd be like an hour, then you spar in the ring, it'd be an hour and a half, 2 hours, then they would drive back. So a lot of them were just like they do it for a little while. Big Mike did it. Dave came in a couple times. Tim Shears came in a couple times. Um, then it was I think his name is Big Cat Mike or something like that.
Yeah, it didn't scale. But all I remember, I think you were teaching, and then you kicked it to San Diego, and then I think I actually covered classes while you were gone. I think I
No,
did
no,
actually
when I
teach,
when I left, well, I don't know if it was that time, but I
or
know
the
one
second
of
time.
one of the times I asked Ryan Kitchen to cover.
Oh,
Yeah, so shout
huh.
out to shout out to Ryan Kitchen. He's one of the owners at Advantage Jiu-Jitsu in Richmond, so one of the best gyms out there. So make sure you guys check it out if you're in that area.
Yeah, I do remember Ryan coming in. That might have been the third time.
I don't remember. No, the third time you went with me.
Yeah, so then no, then
So
no,
it
then
might
it
have been it
must.
might have been that time when we both left.
Yeah, because second, so I remember the first time you came back and you were like, "Oh, we were so wrong," and then that's when we started doing like De La Riva and stuff. And then I remember when you kicked it the second time, uh, teaching like I don't know lasso spider techniques because
You
that
know,
was like
when I
the
went the
hot.
first time, actually, I think John Kefalonitis was teaching.
No, 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 because I the no no. I remember the timeline because I remember what I felt. What happened was I went with you the third time.
Yeah,
We came back. John was teaching then, and then I was having a hard time with John. I'm like, yo, I went to San Diego. I should be a lot better than this.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, and they're like, yo, he's a brown belt. You're a blue
No, no,
belt. What do you?
was he a yeah, he got his black belt later, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Is he still training?
Last I heard he went to the UAE. Remember how they were hiring a lot of people because they wanted to add jujitsu to their curriculums in their schools?
Yeah, that sounds like
So,
a John thing to do.
so remember back then they were like, "Hey, we'll pay for your accommodations, your food, and all you got to do is just basically teach jujitsu to the students."
Yeah,
So I don't know if he's still doing that, if that's still a thing, but I remember he was saying he's like actually seriously considering doing that. That guy was a cool guy, man.
yeah. He was a interesting character.
Really cool, mellow guy. That's how we ended up meeting people like remember Seb?
I don't remember Seb.
Sebastian Lavoie, the guy from Triunity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah, yeah.
we got connected with those guys through John because John was teaching, and then he was like, "Hey man, you want to cover for me over here?" I remember it
Yeah.
used to be like, "Hey man, I know you like that Guarana stuff," because he would get it from that Brazilian store on commercial. So he'd be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
teach a class, and I'll give you a bottle of this."
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, man, that bottle can't be that expensive, right? So for him it was a steal. He's like, "Hey, just cover for me, and I'll get you a bottle." It's like probably like a $5 bottle at most. But he was a really cool guy. He's a Hodger Machado black belt. And he had been around for a long time, man. He was one of those guys that really didn't care so much about like how we were. We
No.
didn't really care about the promotions. He didn't care all that much. But even him, when he traveled to LA and he got it and he came back, I'm like, holy crap, this guy's like really good. He came back and like upgraded.
I don't know. I think it was him who gave you your brown, right? Because
No, no,
I
no. Wait,
he dropped a belt on the ground. We were sparring and we were like going ham that day. And then at the end, he just like dropped the belt on the ground and walked away after you guys sparred. That's
you know what?
literally the memory.
You know what? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Anyways, they're jumping all over the place. But yeah, San Diego the first time.
Was he
Rough
the one
times.
that really gave me my brown belt? Really?
Yeah, man. It was he gave you your brown. Sasalo gave you your purple. And that's the same time I got my blue, I'm pretty sure. And then he gave you the brown. And then the black you got from Super
Big
Dave
Mike
guys.
guys and Super Dave guys. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember, man. And we didn't really care so much about that stuff. We just wanted to go like train hard and like with like good people.
Yeah. The promotions have always been really weird. Like I still people are like, dude, how are you still a blue belt? I'm like, man, it's like who's gonna promote me? Even
I
the
mean,
guy that I trained with in Utah, he's like, what the hell? He's like, why? I
I
think he
mean,
was kind of tempted to give me a belt there when I showed up.
I mean, it is tricky because like even with us, like we were getting promoted. Like I got my blue belt from Feitosa at a
Yeah,
seminar,
yeah,
and then purple belt. Like then that the GB stuff didn't work out. Uh, didn't connect, and then we were like, screw this. And Jorge was moving. Remember?
yeah.
He's
I
like, I'm
think
gonna
it
move to Mexico with my fiance at the time, and he
yeah.
wanted to become a teacher there, which I think he actually did.
He is doing that.
I think
Yeah,
I
I saw
messaged
on
him
Facebook.
randomly, and he's like, "Yeah, man, things are good." And he had found a place out there to train out of. He was a really nice guy, really mellow attitude, man. He's like one of the better training partners too, like really chill dude.
Yeah,
So he was telling me about the like solo guys first. He's like, these guys are legit. If I ever get a chance to train with anybody, I would want to train with them, right? So then I took it literally, started looking it up, messaged. And then back then it was University of Jiu Jitsu, and then that's when I went the first time. Yeah, but back to that trip because the conversation was like you wanted to quit or whatever, right? So I didn't
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about bro. I broke down there, man. I was like, what have I been doing? Like I thought I had some sort of level. I broke down. I'm like, yo, man, like this is wild, right? So I never told anybody the story until I heard about George St. Pierre when he first went to Henzo's to train.
Yeah,
And he's like, yo, man, I was crying because I just couldn't believe. I'm like, okay, cool. It's cool.
yeah.
GSP
It's
said it. It's
normal.
okay. I got the thumbs up. I can tell the story now. So for me, that was honestly, man, like, I think Liera was still a juvenile, Michael Liera.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember I'm like, this guy just kept getting me in omoplatas, wrapping me up in his guard. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I think I think I warded him off. I don't think I got tapped, but I was just getting destroyed by him, right? Then remember John taught us that like cheap little toe hold thing that you do in omoplata,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where you like push the foot in and it cramps. And he's like, sometimes you'll get people in a toe hold. So I did that,
Yeah.
not realizing I'm like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to do like those type of foot locks and like you can do straight foot lock, but you can't do any kind of toe hold variation. So that was like a toe hold variation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then Shanji looks at me, kind of like, what the hell? Like then he's just like, yeah, you're okay, just chill, just train, right? Because I was visiting at the time. That was the first time, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that time was that was interesting. Then I came back and I'm like, okay, I think I decided I'm like I'm gonna do it because when I came back and I saw how much I had improved, so I got destroyed here in San Diego, and when I came back, I'm like, I used to have a really hard time with Andrew. He used to dominate, not even close anymore. Like he couldn't pass my guard. I'm like, wow, like there's a huge difference in the game. So I'm like, okay, there is something here. So had I come back and just still got my butt whooped, I probably would have been like, yo, dude, like this is not for me, maybe, right? But when I came back, I'm like, yo, dude, like I'm a lot better in comparison because you have to. have cohorts where you compare with, right? So when I
Yeah.
compared with the people that I would have a hard time with here, I'm like, it's just a lot easier now. Like I can wrap them up in my guard. I have better attacks. So then that's when I'm like, yo, dude, we're gonna go the second time. And then that time you're gonna go with me, but I'm like, you have to prepare because like the level is totally different,
Didn't
right?
I go with you the third time? The second time you went alone, didn't you?
I don't think so.
Oh, all right.
Second and third time, I think we went together.
I only remember going once.
I'm pretty sure you went twice. I could be wrong. Maybe I went.
I only,
Actually, yeah, I went a second time, and that was when I was just only thing I would do is knee cut past people.
yeah. So you went the
Yeah,
second time alone, then the third time I went with you.
but I think after the first time is when we connected with Trevor.
Yeah, we started going to Richmond.
We went to the Hoyler Gracie seminar and we connected with Trevor. That's
Yeah,
where we
yeah,
met like Brock and Uyama and
yeah,
Dave and all those guys when we started training out of Richmond.
yeah.
That
That's
original
what happened.
location was really good. I liked that place. The first spot,
Yeah,
Trevor's
it
first
was
spot, that
good.
was on like by that Iron City area. Was it by Iron City or Five and
No, it
Stevenson?
was. Yeah, that was what it was.
Yeah, and then he just moved a couple blocks down, but yeah, so
I mean, I think it's that kind of true though, because you ask like, oh, like why do you keep doing it? I mean, eventually you get good, but you have to survive getting your ass handed to you for sometimes a long time,
I think
and
that's why
then
a lot of people are making the shift to like try to limit like full on sparring.
yeah,
So maybe for the first 6 months, 7 months, you're not doing like, yeah, you're rolling, but it's more specific positional type training with, handicaps like, oh, you can only use one hand or whatever. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so like you don't get into these like somebody's neck getting cranked in a guillotine and then they pop something in their neck in like class number 5 and never come back again.
Yeah, because like that old school way of doing it, where you just keep sparring, it's fine if you're trying to build competitors, but I don't think it actually scales well for like a business, or like for the longevity. Because what was that statistic? Like most people quit before blue belt, and then you just
No,
never see them again.
at blue belt.
Oh, they quit
They
at
get
blue.
their blue belt, they're like, oh, okay. And they're like, man, it took everything for me to just get to this peak.
Yeah,
And there's like 3 more and they seem way further away. So I think a lot of people get the blue and then they just stop. But the
yeah.
thing is, I think a lot of that really does have to do with just structuring the training. Like some people might come in and they might just like the structure of a fundamentals class. They might just be like, hey man, like it's nice warm up. We work on motor skills, we work on specific techniques, the basics of jujitsu. And then if you add a component of like positional type training where they actually do get to spar, but it's much more controlled. They have so
Yeah.
many approaches now. Like now that we haven't been in the game nearly as much, they're doing like an ecological approach to training where they have like mini games that they create where it's kind of like you can't use your left hand. Your objective is to do this. So basically what Hodger used to do when, he's training in England, he's the top dog, but he's got only Braulio once or twice a week, if that. And then
Yeah.
he's got like, at highest, maybe a purple belt. So he has to create handicaps like, okay, I can't use my left arm, or I'm going to start in a fully locked in triangle and then work from there, right? So now,
Yeah.
hopefully, it's changing now. If I were to do something like that, I would have like the fundamentals program would be basically like that. It would be no real hardcore sparring, and it would be more so like just skill development. And then if you have somebody that's trained jujitsu before, have like another program, like an intermediate type training or an advanced type training where they can hop right in. Or maybe you get somebody that hops in and is like a competitor. And
Well,
that's where the advanced type training plus the competitive days, like the competition training, it should be. I know most people what they do is they try to niche, but jujitsu is not really like a niche thing. It's technically made for everybody. The kids
yeah.
should be able to train as young as like 4 or 5 years old. Adults, seniors, like I don't know if you remember Rob and Donna. They used to train at Trevor's. They're
I
older
do
couple.
remember. Yeah, I
I
remember.
think
Yeah.
Rob just recently got his black belt,
Yeah.
maybe like a month or two ago. I don't know. Maybe it's been longer than that. But you have to have it where everybody can train, whether they're older, they're like basically from the whole spectrum. But the thing is, if you're if you got somebody that's maybe they're like 50 years old, 60 years old, and they come in and they're doing like full rounds, standing takedowns, full hardcore sparring, and maybe that's not what they signed up for. that's where we lost a lot of people because some people are like, yo, man, I just don't have it in me. Versus if you have classes where it's like, hey, man, this guy's injured, totally cool. Just go to fundamentals training for a little while, man. It's lighter. You don't need to spar hard. You work on your fundies. You get a sweat. You're good. So I think it's gotten a lot better. But in the early days, it definitely used to be just like whoever's going to stick it out is going to stick it out. So you know how it's romantic to the guys of the old era, like back in my day. So like I can kind of say that too because it was kind of like back in my day type of thing. But the way it is now, there's far more people doing jujitsu, so it is better. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. The whole like trial by fire and just it's not really conducive to the sport. I think you just end up with people that get either injured or put off because they're. I mean, it's kind of like driving a car if you think about it. Like you can't just start driving a car. You have to like learn how to literally turn the wheel and how much you need to turn the wheel and what the pedals are. And so like when I was learning how to drive a car, I mean, you taught me, but when I was learning how to drive a car, the instructor was like, first, let me show you how to turn the wheel so you know how much you need to turn it. And now, like, some classes, I mean, we messed up too back in the day when we were running classes. New guy would come in. It's like, yeah, we spar at the end of class. And he's like, dude, I don't know how to move my body. So it like was not good for him or the other person he was training with because it's like, if the guy spazzes out, you're more likely to get injured, both of them. So
In the later
hopefully
years,
it's
what we started doing is like people that were brand new, we would be really tactical with who we paired them up with. And
yeah,
then we'd also just be like, sorry, you guys are just doing specific training. So once it gets out of this set parameter, go
yeah,
back.
yeah,
And for the other person, it was really good because they're like, oh, I don't feel hurt or injured or anything. And I'm gassed. So they get to experience jujitsu. Now I think it just started to get better and better. Now people are starting to make the changes. But I mean, yeah, for us, I think for us it worked because I was doing it and then you guys just were tagging along
yeah,
and kind of had to tag along and then as things adjusted and we had to get better because it got to the point where we couldn't rely on outside instructors just because like it was just always switching all the time. That's why I mean I just said I'm just gonna go and see what it's all about. So that was the
yeah.
first trip to San Diego. Second time I think was maybe a little bit of redemption for me. I'm like I'm gonna go back, right? And I'm gonna see what I can do, which was better. And then it was another upgrade. So like I really understood the difference between the caliber of jujitsu that we had here versus there. And then the third time was when we went. And did you injure your ankle before or after San Diego?
I think after.
Yeah, because that was actually a pivotal move in our game. So
Ah,
do you want to talk about San Diego the third time? That was when we competed
uh,
at the Worlds, right?
yeah, when we competed at the Worlds, back then we were doing a lot of like knee cut pass. We weren't really doing any heavy shoulder pressure,
It was knee
and
cut and
like
X pass used to be the very popular ones at the
that's what
time.
it was. Yeah, it was knee cut and X pass. Um,
And
yeah, the
at that time, I think Jiggy was getting into boxing more
yeah,
as well. So then I was really analytical in regards to like I would watch matches, but
yeah.
I think the changing point. So if it happened after, I don't know if you want to talk about that part first or you want to talk about San Diego first. I guess we could talk
It's
about it.
well, I mean, San Diego. The only hilarious thing I remember was we were trying to figure out how to pass the lasso, and we kept shucking people right to the left or the right, like whatever side. So if someone has a lasso on my right arm, I'd be shucking them off to the left,
Well,
and we're like,
well,
"Yo,
well.
why is this working?" And for context, it was Hodger versus Solo, and it's like, oh, he did this, but the key thing we missed was he circled his hand out under his hamstring and put it on the outside of Solo's leg, and we just kept holding the grip. So we
uh,
shuck him, and then we just come
we
back. Just
basically did it wrong for 3 months. We
and
didn't
then we
even.
came home.
Yeah, and I think what you did was you watched it in full screen, highest
Yeah,
definition. You're like, hey, did you realize that he makes a grip on the other leg?
yeah,
So
yeah, oh,
so
yeah.
for
That's what it was.
for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
people that are listening that might do jujitsu or understand it, we used to our concept now Rafael Lovato coined it as the headquarters position or whatever. We were always doing that. What we would always try to do is whatever guard that you're doing, spider guard, De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva, K guard, Z guard, whatever it is, right? We would always try to force half. And we would get to the point where we would force half, and then at that time, a lot of people would start putting the leg lasso, which would be a good stop to that. So then at that time, we didn't see that he would grab the bottom pants and do kind of like a knee weave pass.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. I think it was within a week or two of coming back home after how long were we there for? 2 months, 3 months?
Oh yeah, that was a long trip.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were there for 3 months.
yeah.
Damn, that was a long trip.
Yeah, you missed your graduation, your high school
Yeah,
graduation
I
for
missed.
that.
Yeah, I was 18. I missed grad. Came back. That's funny.
Yeah, I think yeah, what we would do, our routine there was kind of wild actually, because we were short on money too, I think, at a certain point. So we would train at the University of Jiu Jitsu. Then we would go back to the hotel. There's so many stories there.
Motel. We stayed at a motel.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, we were at the motel. But hey, man, they gave us the cheapest rates. I think at the time it was like it ended up being like 35, $40 maybe. For the
Yeah,
day.
but they had a rule where you couldn't stay there longer for like 60 days, and
No,
that's
no,
why
no,
we
no. It
had to.
was on the 28th day you have to leave, otherwise it ends up being like so we had to leave one day.
Yeah, and then come back or something like that. I sent a clip, or I sent the literally the match where he does it.
Yeah, hold up. I'm gonna share the screen here and then we can
It's
kind
it's
of
right it's right when he does the thing,
no,
the
no,
guard pass.
I literally have no, the clip didn't go there. It just went to the beginning of the match.
Oh, I did. That's why I clipped
Uh,
it properly.
hold up. Let
It's
me
a minute. It's like a minute in.
hold up.
It's from 2005, dude. We're really dating ourselves. It's like over almost 20 years ago.
But this guy, man, come on. This guy came back 10 times world champion, fights the guy that won the decade after him, beats him. Basically the same flawless jujitsu, but is the volume too loud on your end?
I can't even hear it.
Okay. So this is where Solo puts the leg lasso. We never realized that he
You'll
makes
see it. You'll see the grip when they kind of turn the angle.
so we never realized. I mean, we watched this match countless times while we were traveling there. And
Yep.
so right now Solo's got a leg lasso. Hodger just made a
There,
grip on the
there.
other leg, and there you go. He starts kind of doing like a knee weave pass. And see,
Yeah.
Solo can't roll his guard back because Hodger's got the pants there.
So you had to
So
turtle. Yeah.
so he had to turtle, and honestly that match was it was pure domination on his end.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um.
but there's a lot of stories. Remember when we were starting to run low on money? And so then what we would do is we had my old laptop, and so we'd go to train there. See, I can't even, I'm jumping back between stories. So we would train there, but we would be studying Hodger Gracie's jujitsu, even though because some of the techniques we just didn't mesh with, we could tell, right? And I was in a crossroads. I'm like, do I stop watching these videos and just focus on what Solo and Shanji are teaching us? It was more Solo because Shanji moved to LA at that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We helped him move back then. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's another story. There's a lot of stories there. And then
Yeah.
I remember it was a specific class we were doing Eskrima, the Eskrima pass, which
Yeah.
is basically like the old classic half guard pass. And
Bro.
and I remember Solo was saying he's like, man, if you have the perfect position for the Eskrima, it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Like it's unstoppable, basically what he was saying. He was saying that in the class. And we remember we used to watch Hodger, and Hodger used to have this pass, or excuse me, the sweep that he would do from the half guard. And he would set it up from somebody tries to do the Eskrima. And, we'll probably show a video of it like in future episodes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were landing we called the technique the Hodger roll.
The harder roll. Yeah. Yeah.
And we did it to everybody. I think not a single person passed. Maybe one if we made an error. But we were Hodger rolling everybody. And then I think he said something to the line of like, "Oh, it looks like these Canadian or these brothers have figured it out or
He
something,"
said it
right?
in Portuguese, I think. I don't think that many people do. And
Yeah.
then I
And then
think
Shanji
Hunter
came
told.
over,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Shanji,
Yeah.
and so me and Shanji were going, and he's like, "I got him to the position, but time ran out." And he's like, "Hey, what are you gonna do from here now?" So he's asking like what technique I was gonna do. Then he's like, "Do the
Yeah.
technique to me." Then I did the roll. He's like, oh, "Okay." And in my head, I was young and dumb at the time. Like, yo, I'm just gonna hit Shanji with a Hodger technique. This is gonna be epic, right? this is like one of those stories you can tell your kids or whatever, right? That was one of those scenarios where I said, forget it. Like we have to keep watching this guy's stuff because he has, and even now, man, like now I read Hickson Gracie's book, and then it led me down a rabbit hole of studying his jujitsu. And I know what people
Yeah.
say. They're like, this is old jujitsu. You know, now jujitsu's changed a lot and all that stuff, right? People sleep on the fact that, like, for example, right now Gordon Ryan does heavy pressure passing, and he does like a lot of. If you watch Hodger, because he doesn't have a lot of no-gi matches, but like you know, his they have some videos of him and Braulio training, and it's like heavy pressure passing. There's like things like when you do a heavy kind of tripod style pressure passing. I was always like, oh, you're gonna give the underhook. And then when I realized I watched Hodger versus Braulio, and that's where he does a little C cup grip in the armpit,
On
and
the armpit, yeah.
it stops the underhook. And even if you're late, so let's say the guy's kind of got the control on the underhook, if you can get inside the armpit and back up, it shuts it down. And so I'm like, man, this guy was doing this years and years and years ago. Um, and then another thing is too, like if people want to look up one of Hickson's black belts, his name's Henry Akins. That guy talks about like, man, listen, I know you guys think it's just all like smoke and just, you know, lying, but he's like, I saw guys that won the world championships, came to LA, trained at his academy, and the specific scenario he talks about is he had a groin injury after some of the Pride fights, and he was getting ready for like one of his later fights, right? And he hadn't trained for 9 months. And then a guy showed up who had just won the world championships, and he was gonna, you know, Hickson was running the class, and he's like, "Hey, Hickson, you want to roll?" And he tells a story. I could probably add a clip to it or something like that, but he says, minute and a half, 2 minutes in, he catches him with an arm lock, which is a Hickson special, right? And then the second roll went a lot more, is a little bit more active, 3, 4 minutes or whatever. But then he saw the guy tap, but he didn't like understand why the guy tapped. Like, what did he get him to? And then he went up to him afterwards and asked him, like, "Hey, like, why? What did he tap to?" He's like, "Pressure."
Mm.
Because like Hodger and I think Hickson, they understood like weight distribution and how to apply the most amount of pressure. Because if you watch Hodger, it was never like this crazy dynamic style passing. It
Mm-mm.
was always like a heavy pressure passing. So I know we're jumping back and forth with stories, but when you injured your ankle, you're like, I can't knee cut pass anymore, man.
Because that's what we were doing the whole time there. And then during the trip, it's like, oh, this hotter stuff is working. And then we came here, and like, yeah, ankle got injured. That's a whole freaking story. I told physio about it. He's like, that's messed up. Well, I think I'll tell it later. It's a
Yeah,
long,
so
long freaking story. But
I
yeah, at
think
that point,
and then we used to drill a lot, and I would always knee cut, and then you didn't really know what you wanted to do, like what technique should I do now that because I think when you tried to knee cut and then people would do reverse De La
my
Riva and
ankle,
grab your ankle.
my ankle was gone. Like I couldn't cut it through because it was
Yeah,
that bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then I remember same thing with like how it was with Juggy in boxing. And he's like, "Hey man, I got to study boxing." And then I was like basically watching Mike Tyson boxing fights, looking at the things he was doing, and then teaching him. So essentially, like I was watching tape all the time. I think I would do like 6 hours a day of just watching tape. And we came across Hodger, and I'm like, this guy never really stands up to pass. Like he's not doing a knee cut pass. He's not doing
Mm-mm.
a Toriando pass or a X pass or anything. He's just basic fundamental passes. But then I realized too, after watching him, there were elements of like how he would make grips, subtle things of how he'd make grips. So for example, like an old classic would be Toriando pass, you grab the knee on the outside. He
Yeah.
would like cup with his forearm and hold the top of the thigh so the guy can't pull his knee out. And it's just crazy how it's still to this day like it's still effective. Now, of course, people are doing body lock passes and different things, but it changed a lot. But for this
Pre-recorded.
podcast, the main thing is just kind of like essentially we could talk about jujitsu because we enjoy it. We had stories. We're still kind of training at the house and stuff like that. And there's things like CGI that happened, which is freaking crazy. That one match that I sent you guys with Cade and what's the other guy's name?
I see it cut out again.
Hack
That's weird.
is it Hackett? Tackett. Did I record?
Yeah, you
Okay,
did.
okay, okay, okay. Because
It
you know
says
what?
record.
Because
It
normally
says
it's like red, right? And there's no red on this thing. I'm like,
it's
shit.
red. I see it. It says recording.
All right, all
At
right.
the
Because
beginning,
on
it
this
says
thing, there's no red, right? I was using GarageBand yesterday to do the audio only, and
Yeah,
it has like it has red, so you know it's recording. This one, man, always trips me out.
I see it. It's on the top left. It says
What is
recording.
this AI companion?
I don't know. I honestly, everyone adds AI now, and I don't actually take a lot of stock in it. They're not really that useful. I feel like it adds more clutter than it does anything of value.
Yo, isn't that gonna screw you over a little bit for your line of work with
No,
code languages?
no. The one thing people kind of forget is machines don't understand business context. So there's like literally lines of code where it's you're like, why the hell would you do this? And then you hear the business context, you're like, oh, that's why they did it this way, and that's why I can't delete this one line, even though there's like better ways to do it. I do not think it's gonna take anyone's job. I really don't think so. No, no matter
Could
what
they
you do.
not like do the bulk of the code language and then just make those adjustments accordingly?
No.